SQL injections. Now, we talked about this before, but we never really covered it in a lab here on Campfire Security. So I'm in the OS course, the advanced one on Campfire Security, and I picked the A03 injection type. It's under the courses. You can just go ahead and pick it. So we're already here. Now, if you have any questions about Campfire, now please go ahead and just leave the comment below. And if you want a good deal for a good subscription price, also check the description below. I have some discount codes for you to use directly on the webpage. All right, so I already pressed the open lab button and we got the virtual lab open in the other browser window where I can copy paste from that back and forth. Now, do pay attention to whenever you have the browser lab open here, the shortcuts that you're pressing. If you have browser window open here, for example, and you're used to pressing Control W to close a tab, just like that, it's going to close the actual lab and not the tab inside the virtual machine. So be aware of some shortcuts. They have precedence in the operating system and not the virtual lab. So just for you to verify. Well, so go ahead and read the text if you want to do that. But in this video, I am more here to talk about SQL injection compared to what is all this about. The text, of course, we're gonna, just briefly talk about what it is. And as you can see down below, I'm gonna zoom into this, is that we have a SQL query. So select all from users, they're using equals to something. This is written in the language of PHP. So basically that is a variable that you put inside a query, and it's going to input like whatever name is submitted from the user, post or GET requests, HTTP protocol, and then it's going to be executed up against some sort of SQL server, right? So if you can put anything inside this variable here, you can, for example, begin to put different kind of things inside of it. You can escape out of the SQL statement. You can add different things. You can do union attacks, different kind of SQL injection attacks, also blind, timed, a lot of different kind of attacks, And the problem is that if you can do these kind of things, you can do whatever you like to do with the user that are connected to the database. So whenever you have a database, there's always a user behind the kind of process. Doesn't really matter what kind of process it is. Every process has some sort of a user behind it if it's a serious system it's running on. And most of them, of course, are like Linux and Windows. So that user do, of course, have some privileges on the server. And if that is root or super administrator, well, then basically we can do the same things with those privileges that we can from the functionality of SQL. And SQL can actually write files directly to the hard drive. And if you have access to those files, well, basically we can create different kind of things. We can, invoke, or you can say like get access to through a web page if this is the case. And then we can even go further and escalate ourselves into a terminal access. Also usually called a reverse shell, or just a shell on the box, depending on how we get it, and so on. Let's go ahead and just get started, right? So we are tasked to go ahead and visit this family recipe.fire. So let's do that. Let me there we go. So opening the browser inside the lab, pasting in the URL, and we are looking at the family recipes, top secret, ask a kind of invitation. We have a hi home, we have a sign in, we have a logout. A logout doesn't really do anything. We can, of course, always just inspect the page if this is what we want to do. If we just feel that HTML is the most interesting part of all, so just write logout and go to that. You can find it. I don't know what it's exactly. It says log out in 2 words. And of course, there's going to be a problem if we write it in 1 word. And what? Log out. Is it really sensitive? So I can't find it. It's just trying for log. Nope. Well, maybe. Oh yeah, it's a JavaScript based. So if that is the case, you need to press F12 and zoom in on all this, and maybe go into drag that to the right and go into this called developer tools, and then just press the button right here with the arrow, mark the logout, and we can check it out here. It's logout, it's a link, and we can see that this is of course just a normal lab link. It doesn't have any reference, how reference we're going to call it, so we're never really going to get anything out of it. But we have a login, and we have a home button, which doesn't really do anything. It's just referring us to the root where we're right now. So basically we would have to log in, and we can press something like test, and use does not exist. So we can try different things here, but what we probably need to do is to try and SQL inject our way in. Let me just see path to generation, that should be kept a secret. Find the SQL way to access secrets. So yeah, side my variables for SQL injection. That is of course the hint. I don't know, SQL, that is the hints that we're giving, and sometimes you can just put it into, and then try and see if we can find something from Word, but I don't really think that is the particular case here. Anyways, what we need to do is check out when we log in, how is that done? So when we log into a particular system, we are in most cases saying something like select all from, or select one depending on, but all is probably going to be better, and then going to limit it with a one. Or select all from users where username and password equal to whatever, or just select all from users, and then look at the password, the hash, and compare, and hash the password. And if those two hashes are the same, then we are logged in. That is the all general way to do it. If you're using a traditional hard-coded login mechanism. But if we can say, instead of saying select all from users, blah, 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 and we can add to the end of it an or statement, because at the end of the day, select all from where, that is a conditional clause. And the where clause is going to say, we can do all this if this is correct or true. But if we can add a or statement, instead of and statements, because in most occasions, whenever you want to match a user and a password, you need to write and, because they need to match the same row. But if you write or, it's basically the same as saying that we can decide. So if it says blah, 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 say all users and password equal to, or 1 equal 1, for example, then basically 1 will always be equal to 1, and we will select whatever thing, and the very first user we select in the database in the rows, it's going to be the one we're probably going to be logged in with, depending on how the code is programmed. So what we could do here is to try and test. They're using, in PHP in particular case here, it seems like they're using single quotations and double quotations to do concatenations. So what we could probably try and do is say or, and then 1 equal 1. And then we can try and put a quotation first. So that quote is gonna try and end the quote for us, and maybe gonna do something. And maybe we can also add int 2 dashes to end the SQL statement. I can press login, for example. And in this particular case here, we are getting logged in. I'm gonna get the flag. So what we essentially did here is I'm going to go ahead and paste in what I wrote. And also I'm going to use this particular query right there, because I don't really know if that is the case. I cannot say, but my best guess, this is about hacking, so we don't know. Go ahead and delete this and that. And also imagine that you wrote, for example, test, and this is and password equal to the same again. That is going to be also tests, just like that, right? Well, what I did here is that I injected this particular case just like that. And as you can see, what really happened here is that it says select all from users where user equal to test, all one equal one, and says dash dash. Basically, what is behind that is ignored, so it doesn't really matter if the syntax breaks. But I actually effectively ended, and I gave the conditions for a non-syntax error SQL statement to be constructed, and then I say all one equal one. So basically, it doesn't really matter right there, because one is always equal to one, then I'm going to be logged in. That's really how it works in this particular case. Now, sometimes it can also be quotations instead of single quotations, and it never mix, by the way, but always one of those in PHP. So you need to know the language you're trying to inject SQL inside of, depending on that, of course. So, well, that's the SQL lab for this room right here on Campfire Security. I think basically what many people miss from SQL injection is the fact that it's pretty easy to exploit, but it's also even easier to fix. And to do that, you're going to use something called parameterized statements in this language here. And I think this is server code. You extract the variable that's going to be injected inside of the SQL query right here, of the statement. And you say, like, what is it? I'm expecting a string, for example, for S or D for integer and so on. And then you're going to put it inside a variable and do a execute query and parameters on it. And then this particular mechanism here will then check that what is injected inside of this SQL query or statement right there is actually okay and legal. Now, there have been some discussions about parameterized statements are not 100% safe. But of course, when it comes to injections and type like that, it's the way to go these days. Of course, you need to do more things to protect your website, and I highly suggest go ahead and check out my other videos about web security. You can always start checking out the playlist that I'm collecting all the Campfire Security videos about, and check out different things. You can also go ahead and subscribe to Campfire Security. There are different rooms here, the full OWASP top 10 advanced pen tests lab, where you also learn about, first of all, how to attack, but also how to go ahead and further research different kind of things like open source intelligence, general things, and some introductional courses. More will come, of course, but right now there's a lot of work to be done on the advanced OS top 10 courses. And let's face it, the most vulnerable port is 443. It's going to be the HTTPS port for secure, encrypted traffic on the web protocol. So if you liked the video, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Click the bell for notifications whenever I release a video. Also remember that I'm going to upload a lot of videos in the future, so that bell will help you if you want the notifications from my channel. So I hope you have a really nice day. Don't forget to leave a comment and say something interesting and fun. Have a nice day.